All right, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. This is In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, one of our fourths, where we specialize in purebred standard poodles. Dante's here, okay, my current standard poodle. But we give information that applies to all dogs on what we title as letting dogs stay natural. Stemming, if you will, from our main side of In The Image Clothing Company, where we allow the human body to work. Our slogan there, like I just said, is allowing the body to work. It's the same thing with letting dogs stay natural. We discuss everything we do, really. Standing, walking, sleeping, eating, breathing, sitting, hydration. But we're a clothing company because anything that clothes our bodies. For the dogs, it's collars, leashes, harnesses, bandanas, and slip leads, whatever you could put on or around a dog. For the human beings, it's not only just what we think of as traditional clothing items, but even glasses or jewelry. We just have to allow the bodies to be unaltered, otherwise we get into chronic patterning, where our bodies are trying to work around things. With the dogs, it's loose collars, imbalanced collars, weight-wise, knots tied on their neck, like in a bandana, twisting their whole body. With the human beings, it's clothing, oversized clothing, imbalances of any kind in clothing, and then shipped across the entire earth in modern 2026. Today's the 18th of March. We get into universal patternings, and our bodies build up scar tissue and bone spurs in the dogs and the human beings. Things like shoelaces or drawstrings, these are just ropes introduced to the body, and we can twist the entire body. So our focus is allowing the bodies to work, of the dogs or the human beings. But we do a lot as well. And this video's title on In The Image Clothing Company Poodles is some of that other stuff we do, if you will. This video's title is Simplifying Dog Commands, because we do a lot, specializing, like I said, with purebred standard poodles. Standard is the size, the large size, and poodle is the breed. And, well, if we're going to have an obedient dog, our dogs have to understand what we're saying. We've just got these domesticated animals. We take dogs out of their natural wild environment. We domesticate them, meaning bringing them into our man-made world that we place onto God's natural earth. There's a lot going on. There's hidden dangers like poisons that the dogs don't know about, cars that drive by that could be very dangerous for the dog. A lot of things the dogs don't quite understand the ways that we do as human beings in our societies. So, letting dogs stay natural, we do what we can to not alter the dog's body by placing things on them that are heavy, collars, leashes, comboed, right? Collar and leash combo, and pulling on the neck of the dog. You've got weight on the neck of the dog, imbalanced weight. So a couple focuses when it comes to clothing the dog with something are the same for human beings. Keeping collars centered and the importance of snug collars. Because the dogs and us, we've got even opposing musculature from the center line of our neck. And so having anything placed around the neck, it needs to stay centered in the best way we can. There's a center line to our bodies, there's a center line to Earth's gravity that it meshes with, and there you go. So, the thing with dog commands, though, is to keep our dogs safe. We need certain commands. It's very important to have your dog have really as good of a return command, if you will, as you can. If your dog's out somewhere and you want them to come back to you, you either say come or return or whatever it is that you personally choose to use as the word for the command to tell your dog to come back to you. This is out of safety because the dog could be going into the road and maybe there's a car coming. The dog could be somewhere where there's another aggressive dog and it could come attack your dog. Anything that could ever happen at all that you need your dog to come back to you, because you need you as the owner of the dog to be your dog's safe place. Your dog's safest place, but also you need to be the thing that the dog listens to more than anything else. More than food and more than their toys. Your dog needs to listen to you so you can keep it safe, as one of the many reasons. And so, simplifying dog commands, this is the thing with dog commands, or dog, what's the other word that we could use for command? You tell your dog to do something and they do it. That's what a command means. Maybe you don't know what the word command means in this case, how I'm using it here. But there's a lot of people that will train their dogs to do a lot of different things. You can train your dogs to do all sorts of tricks and all sorts of things that don't really have a purpose, if you will, if you can see what I mean. You can teach your dog to roll over, you can teach your dog to spin, you can teach your dog to stand on their back legs, or whatever it is. And you can do these things if you want. I'm not saying you can't, and I can't tell you what to do anyway. But what I am saying is that we are blunt, bold, raw, and real in the Image Clothing Company, and there's an airplane flying overhead. Okay, I understand the noise. Let me wait it out for a second, but this is a big thing we need to understand with the dog's memory bank, okay? It's nice and warm out here, man. Utah County, the 18th of March, 2026. All right, it's just noisy where it is, but it's a lot less noisy now from that airplane. So, wow, it's still there though, the sound for sure. Yikes. Not that it's wrong to teach your dog to do tricks that don't have an actual function behind them, but our dogs have a certain level of memory, okay? The dogs are not like human beings where I speak English and I can know hundreds or thousands of English words and what they mean, and I know how to use them. Dogs, they can only learn maybe tens of words or up to maybe 100 words, give or take, depending on the breed. You know, statistically, there's dog breeds that are smarter than other dog breeds through breeding. And our dogs can only learn what a certain amount of words mean before they can't really learn anymore and remember what all the words that they've learned mean and why you're telling these words to them or why you're saying these words to them. So that's the big focus with this video's title, Simplifying Dog Commands. If we teach our dogs a lot of tricks and just a lot of things that we say a word and they do something, you can train your dog to do whatever you want. And I guess you could maybe train your dog to do nothing. Maybe never train your dog at all is what I'm saying. But if we want an obedient dog, that's the focus. There's only a certain amount of understanding the dog can have of words. There's only a certain amount of words the dogs can know and what they mean. So, if we simplify our dog's commands, then we can take something that could be 2, 3, or 4 different word commands, depending on the situation, and use the same word for multiple different things. Think about it like this. You've got a sit command, a stay command, a wait command, and anything else you could say that's really similar that people will use to just get their dog to stay in the same location. Somebody will say sit, and then they'll walk away and they'll want their dog to stay there. Or someone will say stay, walk away, and want their dog to stay there. Or someone will say wait, and then walk away and want their dog to stay there. But a lot of people train each of these different words in a case like this that could be used for multiple different things, but you can use one word to tell the dog to do multiple different things. If you can see what I mean here, if we want our dogs to be obedient, what we need to do is make it as easy as we can for them to understand what we're saying. We have some extremely intelligent dogs, breeds out there. You know, domesticated dog breeds didn't even exist until we kind of made them as mankind. We domesticated these dogs, taking them out of nature, and we selected specific dogs over generation and generation and generation to breed together to zero in, if you will, on the kind of dogs we want. The breed of the poodle didn't even exist until human beings kind of made it. But we've got some really smart dogs. The poodle specifically, one of the reasons we specialize in purebred standard poodles, it's statistically the second smartest dog breed on the earth in modern 2026, okay? Yes, statistically. What I mean is, you get an extremely intelligent dog, but that doesn't mean that they can just learn every word you ever try to speak to them. So, having a very intelligent dog and trying to get obedience out of it needs to be coupled with a very direct line of communication. Think about it like this. dogs aren't going to understand every word you speak, no matter what language you're speaking, because people will train their dogs in English or Spanish or Portuguese or Korean or whatever language you speak. The dog will just understand what the words you say mean, just like you're learning how to speak as a little child, no matter where you are on the earth or what language you're speaking. But if you have a native language like me, which is different than other parts of the earth, I speak English. And so if I were in a different part of the earth where they speak the majority Spanish, I'm not going to be able to communicate with them very well by just trying to know every word in their sentence. So we've got what we could call broken English, where people maybe don't speak very fluent English, but they speak a few key words and they can kind of communicate a little bit because of these key words, but they don't know a whole lot of words to be able to have a full conversation with you when you speak a different language than them and you don't speak each other's language fluently. That's how it is with the dogs. Dogs don't fully speak any human language. It doesn't matter what language you personally speak, but let's say in this case, because I speak English, basically only, Dante can't fully understand English. I can't just sit there and speak to Dante and have him understand everything I'm saying. Dogs really understand us. Even if we don't speak, dogs understand us through our body language. Dogs understand us emotionally, and dogs really do pick up on a lot of what we say. But it's like speaking to somebody who doesn't speak your language fluently. You want to speak to the dog very direct and with key words. So the more you try to teach your dog words and commands, the more breadth, if you will, the more broad amount of commands you try to teach your dog, the less obedient they'll be able to be. Because they'll be trying to think like, man, that's a different word than the last word you said, and you said all these other words too, and they're trying to think about, okay, what does that word mean? And they have to do that before they can even try to be obedient to what the word means that you're telling them. They have to first remember what that word even means. So the least amount of commands that we could have to say to our dog and have them still be able to know what we're asking them to do, that's how we're going to get the most obedient dog. And that's what I'm saying in this video. So the thing with Dante, personally, meaning my personal standard poodle here, currently on the 18th of March 2026, after having him for over 3 months, he still doesn't know what it means to sit. If I say the word sit to Dante, he doesn't know how to do that. There's no command that I've taught Dante on how to just sit. Because I don't need him, well, I haven't yet, in any case, needed Dante to sit. But there's plenty of times when I need Dante to just wait somewhere. So really just about the only commands Dante currently, as of the 18th of March 2026, knows is wait and come. He knows a few other things where he does, but Dante's an extremely obedient dog, and unless or until I need to teach him different words to be correlating with different things he can do, up until now, that's all I've needed Dante to know to be able to do what I need Dante to do. And so because of that, Dante has a very clear mind. He's not trying to remember all these words and trying to be like, all right, he said this, is that when I do this thing, or is it when I do that thing? It's just a very simple, easy, direct, few key words, and he knows what I'm saying. Just like speaking to somebody who doesn't fully speak your language, you don't try to speak all these big long sentences to them. If you're asking how to get to the store, you don't say, hey, what are the directions to the grocery store that's in this town that I heard is there, or something like that. You'll say, how do I get to the store? And you'll make it very clear and direct. However you say it, you want to shorten it and make it very simple. That's how we want to speak to our dogs. Dogs don't know anything about human being languages, no matter what language it is across the earth, until we teach them. We have to remember, even though our domesticated dogs are relatively far removed from their wild dog ancestors, if you will, and just their natural state of being, the dogs still are just animals. They have no idea what you're saying until you teach them what you're saying. And so the least amount of words that we teach them, the more they're going to be able to fully and thoroughly and quickly understand what we're saying. To have an obedient dog, you want a dog that really just does what you say as immediate as you can have them do it. Because even if your dog knows a command, if it takes you 3 or 4 times of saying it to get him to do what the command is trying to get them to do, maybe it's like, you know, get out of the road. And your dog's in the middle of the road and they know the command, but you have to say it 3 or 4 times for them to listen. Your dog might get hit by a car before they even listen to the command, even though you've taught it to them. So being as streamlined as we can with our dogs, meaning as direct as we can with our dogs, is how we're going to have obedient dogs for our sake, as far as them listening to what we either want, which is okay in the times that it's okay for us to want our dogs to do things, but in times we need our dogs to do things, that's on our end of things, when that's very beneficial. We need them to just be as obedient as we can, as quick as we can, for our sakes, but also for the sake of the dog, for their safety. Safety is a big one when it comes to dogs, because like I was saying, they're in this modern man-made world. And there's so many things that we don't have to be fearful of or worried about, but we have to be very diligent of, like keeping the dogs out of the road, keeping the dogs away from things when there's something on the ground they could potentially lick up and maybe it's poisonous, or anything that's just different because it's man-made than a dog would just ever deal with in the wild. Well, yeah, there you go. The goal is natural. On all 4 sides of In the Image Clothing Company, we're designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. We're a clothing company. There's our 5-word company name with no spaces between them, because it's about the human body and its functionality, its health. It's the same thing with the dogs. It's about the dogs and their functionality and their health. That's why we focus on clothing at all. It's just the only thing physically placed on us. We don't want to alter our bodies because it just physically damages them. And they're the only thing we actually have in this life, just our bodies. And so a lot of what we do under In the Image Clothing Company is just for safety and health, truly. I mean, really. That's not just trying to like stretch it because we have a clothing company, but let's make it sound good. That's really the reason. We wear clothing to keep our bodies safe and healthy from the elements in the environment. We specialize in purebred, specifically standard poodles, for the sake of the health of the dog, because we'll be breeding purebred standard poodles for that reason. To keep less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes, the fix is not adopting dogs from shelters. The fix would be, before birth, properly breeding purebred healthy dogs, because in the wild, you just about never get a mixed dog breed. It's unhealthy. And that's a lot of the reason why dogs end up in shelters, because of the health complications that come through improper breeding, and the owners can't pay for it, or they don't want to deal with it, or whatever it comes to being in, you know, specific situations. And so the dog just ends up in a shelter a lot of the time. Dante here's a rescue, by the way, just for some context, from the South Utah Valley Animal Shelter. But anyway, I'm going to cross the street a couple times with Dante, and you can see the simplicity of just 2 commands. The first one is wait. And when I say the word wait to Dante or any dog, if I'm using it like this, all I'm asking is, when I say that word, you just stay right where you are at that time and don't move until I tell you to move. And then I say the word come. And what that means is just come directly to me, and that's it. And that simplicity of just those two words as just 2 commands is something your dog can really learn quick and easy. It's something that's so universal, and it can be used, in so many different situations where you could potentially use multiple other different commands. You can use these 2 words, and this video is not just about the command wait or the command come, but this is a good explanation with just these 2 commands only, where there's a lot of things you could teach your dog word-wise, but if you can use one word or a couple different words for multiple different things, and your dog just understands the general meaning of these words, then you'll have a quicker response from your dog. So we'll walk across the street a couple times and I'll show you how Dante is obedient with these simple commands, but they can be used in multiple different ways. So watch this. Dante, up. Hey. Hey. He knows a few different words. He knows load up, like getting into a car or getting up onto something, like a bed or a ledge. He knows up when he's laying down. He knows a few things, but keeping it very simple, I mean, I might add quite a few different commands to Dante's memory, if you will, as time progresses. But either way, as many as I do, keeping it as simple as we really can, only as complicated as we need it to be is really the focus on that end. Then we're gonna have a more obedient dog. So we'll cross the street a couple times here. Hey Dante, up. Good. You come. Dante, wait. Good, Dante. Come. Crossing. Good, Dante. Come. We wait. Good, Dante. Come. Crossing. Good. Okay, so just for some context too, we're in this little area where they're going to be putting houses soon. So there's basically nobody coming through here. And yeah, it's not like there's cars that are going to be flying across. I know I didn't really even look for cars very well because it's just an open lot. They just put these streets in. They're going to put houses in here soon. So this time, this is what I'll do, and that's part of the reason why I gave context too. I'm going to have Dante cross the street by himself. This is something you probably should not do in just about any case, but there's basically no cars that are coming through this area right now. But just to show how I can use the same words in a little bit of a different way, where Dante is now going to be doing this on his own to a degree. But the same two commands, wait and come, but now instead of Dante being right by my side while we're doing it, Dante will be doing this in the ways that he is, and you'll see what I mean, on his own, but it's the same commands, and that streamlined, direct simplicity of just using the same command when the situation is slightly different, but he understands the general meaning of the command. Keeping dog commands simple, that's how you have a quick response and an obedient dog. So watch this. Dante, up. It's hot too, kind of hot. It's like 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Warmer than it's been, warmer than he's been used to, you know. Dante, up. Yeah. Good. Okay, come. Okay, Dante, you wait. Dante, come. Crossing. Good. Good boy. Dante, wait. Dante, come. Crossing. Good. Good boy. He's probably wondering why I'm just having him do it again and again. You know, he's like, we just did this, you know. But anyway, there you go. That's really all this video needs to be for the explanation of just doing all we can to keep our dog commands simple so that they don't have to overthink. If it takes your dog time to try to think about and like reach into their memory bank, if you will, like, what does this mean? He says this word and I have to remember what it means before I can even try to do what he's saying, or she's saying, right? But if we can have it be as simple as we can so they just know it, quick and easy, and they don't have to think about multiple different words that maybe even sound relatively similar to one of the commands you give them, for example. That's another point too. If you're gonna give your dog multiple different commands, try to have them sound at least quite a bit different so that it just registers quicker as a different word to your dog. That's what I'm saying. Just keeping it as simple as we can for the dogs to understand. just like trying to speak to someone who doesn't fully speak your language as fluently as you do, you try to keep it simple and direct and as easy as you can for them to understand so that you can have this good line of communication, even though the dogs are never going to fully speak or even understand your language as a human being. We only need them to understand what we need them to understand when we're speaking directly to them, asking them to do something. So there you go. Today is, like I said, the 18th of March, 2026. This is In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, one of our fourths. But there are four sides to In the Image Clothing Company. I mentioned the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. We allow the body to work. We discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth. We give a lot of free modifications in clothing just so it fits the body properly. We've got things like joints of body parts meshing with joints of materials, and just clothing fitting on the body how it needs to allow the body to work, just so we're not having to work around it and damaging our bodies. And same with the dogs. We talk about dog accessories, if you will. You know, ideally not excessive accessories are ever being placed on a dog, but collars and things like this placed around a dog. We just discuss them on how to keep the dog as unaltered as we can when we take a wild animal and we put a man-made thing onto it. Do you see what I mean? That's what we're really doing here. A lot of what we're doing here under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. But we've got In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We're on episode 204 as of today's date, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. You don't have to be religious or believe in anything, but we're all human beings, the same thing, placed on the same earth, designed by the same God. It just is what it is before we got here and after we leave. So we just give deep insights on life. And we have In the Image Clothing Company music, where a lot of what we do is show the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter the neutral wrist. Straight out from the outside of the forearm, down and out that pinky finger is the neutral to the wrist. And yeah, that natural rounding in the hands as well. So rhythm and poetry, lyricism, spoken word, guitar playing, singing, music geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ with the messages over on In the Image Clothing Company music. But there you go. We'll have good dog products and good human being clothing. Do everything clothing, do everything dog products. Minimal, simple, light, brandless on the exterior. Staying centered, fitting correct, being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials for both the human being clothing and the dog products. So we'll be down in St. George, Utah here in about a month, give or take, from today's date, the 18th of March, 2026. That's where we'll be based as In the Image Clothing Company. But we do live up Utah, the state of Utah here, for the sake of the beautiful, diverse nature. We've got the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints headquarters here in the state of Utah, and poodle parade events. If you want to bring your purebred poodles of any size or mixed poodles of any size, we'll get people into nature and dogs into nature and come for the events. Not for In the Image Clothing Company's team, but we'll be doing the events for purposeful reasons. I mean, just fun is one of the reasons, but you know, yeah. Subcategories like clean the creek or rid the rubbish, specific poodle parade events to actually pick up trash for the environment. And there's a lot that's going to be coming with stuff like that, you know, event-wise, and what we're doing when we bring people together. So he's just basking in the sun. What I'm saying is, I'm giving some context on things to come before they do, in the times I'm discussing things like events. But we'll have really detailed explanations in the invitations, if you will. When you just look up our 5-word company name, In the Image Clothing Company, all 4 sides of In the Image Clothing Company come to our 5-word name. And anywhere you can find us, you'll just find when we're having events and what we're doing and what to bring, what you can't bring, what's required, and, you know, the reason we're doing them and all these things. So a lot of more, you know, specifics will be attached, if you will, to each event. I just give a little bit of a broad explanation that we will be having events where you can bring your poodles, mixed poodles or purebred poodles of any size. We'll call them poodle parade events. But what all comes with that, there will be a lot more, specifics explained and just figured out, if you will, as well, as time progresses. So anyway, there you go. Simplifying dog commands. We need to, for the sake of our dogs and for the sake of us. For the dog's safety and health, and for us to have an obedient dog. And it's on our end too. It's for us to have a safe, healthy dog. We love our dogs, and we have to be able to have them know what the command means and listen to it, for us to be able to keep them safe, you know. So there you go. All right, Dante, you want to say goodbye to the camera, brother? Good boy. All right, thank you.